John Okafor, a native of Anambra, was 25 years old when he first left the dusty red earth of his parents' house in Lagos State, Nigeria. He wasn't running away. He was running towards something, a future, a promise, a dream shaped by Hollywood movies, family tales, and the unshakable belief that beyond the Atlantic lay opportunity. America, the land where anyone could succeed, if only they worked hard enough. He arrived in New York City with a visitor's visa and $200 tucked inside his Bible. A traveling agent had convinced him he could convert the visitor's visa to a work permit once he arrived in America. The cold slapped him in the face that December morning. He had never seen snow before. He had never felt so small. But John was not a man easily defeated. The first week was a blur, sleeping in subway stations, huddling inside McDonald's till staff kicked him out, and living off crackers and free samples from corner stores. No job, no friends, no papers, but he had faith. Then he met Anthony, a fellow Nigerian who had been in the US for 5 years. Anthony was undocumented too, but worked as a dishwasher at a Caribbean restaurant. He took John in, let him sleep on a mattress on the floor of his one-room apartment in the Bronx, and helped him get his first job, cleaning toilets at night in a hotel. That was the beginning. For the next 10 years, John worked like a machine. He picked up every job that came his way. Construction by day, janitorial work at night, sometimes 2 shifts back to back, with only coffee keeping him alive. He never went to the clubs, never bought expensive clothes, never dated. America wasn't a playground for him. It was a battlefield, and he was a soldier fighting for a better life. Every month, without fail, he sent money home. His mother, Mama Ngozi, had hypertension and needed medication. His elder brother, Chuka, had a wife and children, and John didn't want them to suffer. Most importantly, he was building something, a mansion in Lekki, a house he would return to, a symbol of his struggle, a reward for a decade of sacrifice. He trusted Chuka to manage everything. The house, the car dealership he planned to open. They were brothers, blood, and John believed blood meant loyalty. Calls with home became the highlight of his months. "Brother, the foundation is almost done," Chuka would say. "Mama, they alright, no worry. We go soon open the car dealership space. God go bless you." John's heart would swell. He was doing it. He was lifting his family. He was making Nigeria proud. But dark clouds were gathering. In 2016, Donald Trump was elected President of the United States. One of his core promises: crack down on illegal immigrants. Fear gripped the undocumented community like a disease. ICE raids increased. Friends disappeared overnight. Rumors spread of entire families being deported. John stayed cautious. No driving, no late nights, no noise. But when you live in the shadows, all it takes is one crack of light. One cold January morning, John was on his way to a construction site in Queens when ICE officers surrounded the bus he was in. Random checks, they said. His heart pounded. He didn't have a driver's license, a work permit, or any legal ID. Just a fake social security number and 10 years of sweat. They pulled him off the bus. No time to call anyone. No chance to run. Within 2 weeks, he was deported. Just like that. The dream died mid-flight. John landed at Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos with nothing but a small duffel bag, 2 pairs of jeans and a worn-out passport. No house, no money, no plan. But he still had hope. He had sent over $150,000 to Nigeria over the last 10 years, and a couple of cars for the car business. He had a house waiting, a business, a future. He called Chuka. "John? Bros, you should have told me you were coming, oh. Things are not so easy now, oh," Chuka said over the phone, voice coated in confusion. "I'm at the airport. Come pick me." 3 hours later, Chuka arrived in a brand new Toyota Prado. John smiled. "So the dealership started?" Chuka hesitated. Let's talk about that later." John's heart sank slightly, but he brushed it off. Maybe Chuka wanted to surprise him. As they drove through Lagos, John looked around. So much had changed. He was both a stranger and a native. When they passed a large 2-story mansion in Lekki, John sat up. "Wait, isn't that our house?" Chuka didn't stop. Bro, I'll explain. Let's go to Mama's place first." Mama's place turned out to be a small boys' quarter in Aja, tucked between 2 old bungalows. The stench of gutter water lingered in the air. The house had 1 bulb hanging from the ceiling, flickering like a dying star. John stared at his mother. She looked thinner, older, but her eyes held no joy. "Why didn't you call before coming?" she asked, not unkindly, but not warmly either. John blinked. "Mama, where's the house? The business? Or the money I sent?" Silence. He turned to Chuka. "Talk to me." Chuka sighed, sat on a stool, and rubbed his chin. "Bros, things no be as you think. The house, I register him under my name, because you know they around. The car business, I use my wife's name, for security reasons. You know how Niger be." John's world started to crumble. "What are you saying?" Mama stepped in. "You were gone for 10 years. Chuka is the one who's been here. You were sending money, yes, but you didn't say specifically whose name to put. We assumed." John stood there, trembling. "I was in America slaving, Mama. I was sleeping on cold floors. I didn't miss 1 payment. And now you're telling me it's gone? That I own nothing?" No one answered. That night he slept on a mat in the same room he left a decade ago. No fan, no light, just mosquitoes and shattered dreams. His phone vibrated. A message from an old friend. "Heard your back, Niger no easy oh. Hope you no come empty-handed." John stared at the ceiling. Tears streamed silently. He had come home, but there was no home. John woke up with a stiff neck and a heart that weighed a ton. The early morning Lagos sun filtered through the slatted window, casting golden stripes across the cracked walls. His old room, once a sanctuary of boyhood dreams, now felt like a prison. He stepped outside and took a long breath, hoping the dusty Harmattan air could clear his mind. It didn't. For 3 days, no one brought up the house or the business again. Chuka avoided him, and Mama treated him like a distant relative who had overstayed his welcome. The pain wasn't just in their betrayal. It was in the silence that followed it. On the 4th day, John took a bus to Lekki. He stood across the road from the mansion he had paid for, a towering cream-colored structure with dark-tinted glass and wrought iron gates. He watched as Chuka's children played in the compound, and his wife, dressed in fine lace, directed a housemaid to wash the Prado. John approached the gate. The security man stood up. "Who you they find?" "I'm here to see my brother." "Which brother?" "Chuka." The man narrowed his eyes. "Oga Chuka no dey. And he talk, say Makuna, no disturb him house." John stood there, fists clenched. 10 years of his life, and he wasn't allowed past the gate. He walked away. Each step felt like a blade, cutting deeper into his soul. He tried to get help. He went to the local police station, thinking they would hear him out. "Do you have receipts?" the officer asked. "Yes, I have Western Union transfers, WhatsApp messages, bank deposits, everything. And whose name is on the house documents? Chuka's. But it's my money. I have proof. The officer leaned back in his chair and sighed. My brother, this matter na civil case. Go court. Court. John barely had money for food, let alone a lawyer. But he was determined. He began asking around, looking for someone who could help him take his case to court. Most lawyers quoted fees he couldn't afford. The few willing to help warned him it would take years. Without bribes, it's your word against his, one lawyer told him. And if your brother is paying the police, you might even end up in trouble. He didn't understand how deep the betrayal would go until he returned home one evening to find two officers waiting at the gate. John Okafor? Yes? You're under arrest. For what? For fraud and threats to life. What? Who said? Keep quiet and enter the van. He was dragged away in front of the neighbors. Mama watched from the door and said nothing. At the station, he was thrown into a cell so cramped he couldn't stretch his legs. The air stank of sweat and urine. Mosquitoes feasted on his arms. His crime? Chuka had accused him of trying to steal the house. He spent 3 days in that cell. 3 days of rats scurrying across his feet, of stale Gary and insults from officers. When he was finally released on bail, thanks to an old school friend who heard of his arrest, he came out a different man. His eyes were sunken, his hope dim. But he wasn't done. He filed a petition in court, using a human rights group that took up his case pro bono. The court date was set for 4 months later. In the meantime, he took a driving job as an Uber driver, carrying passengers from an online cab hailing app, from cleaning toilets in America to driving strangers around the streets of Lagos. He rented a room in a face me, I face you. 1 bulb, 1 mat, 1 pot. He told no one where he lived. Every night he plotted. He gathered more evidence. Screenshots, bank logs, voice notes, even old pictures with Chuka, talking about the mansion. He sent emails to local bloggers, hoping one would pick up his story. Nothing. He called news stations. No response. He thought of confronting Chuka again, publicly. But what good would that do? He thought of going back to America, maybe through Mexico this time. But what was there for him? He thought of ending it all. One night, he stood on the edge of 3rd Mainland Bridge, staring at the black water below. Then his phone buzzed. A message from a young boy he had mentored in the US. Uncle John, you inspired me. I'm now a supervisor. I remember everything you taught me. God bless you forever. He stepped away from the edge. Maybe he had nothing, but he still had his story, and it wasn't over. 2 days before the court hearing, he was walking home from work when a car pulled up beside him. It was Chuka. He rolled down the window. John, get in, let's talk. John stood still. Chuka smiled. I dey sorry, but this your wahala fit. Destroy both of us. You want everybody to know, say you be deportee. You know fit win. Let's settle this as brothers. John clenched his fists. You already settled it. With my money. Chuka's smile vanished. You think Nigeria works on truth? No court go favor you. Use your head. The car drove off. John didn't sleep that night. The walls of his room seemed to close in. The fan stopped working. The bulb flickered. At 3 a.m., he opened his notebook and wrote the title, The Price of Brotherhood. His testimony, his truth. Even if the courts failed him, the world would hear. His voice might be the only thing they couldn't steal. The Lagos State High Court in Ikeja buzzed with tension. On one side sat John Okafor, thin, with sunken cheeks and a pair of borrowed trousers. On the other side, Chuka arrived with his lawyer, in a freshly starched agbada, his gold wristwatch glinting under the courtroom lights. The judge walked in. Everyone rose. John stood, not just as a man in court, but as a man carrying 10 years of crushed dreams, sacrifices, and betrayal on his shoulders. His lawyer, a young activist named Damilola, spoke passionately. "My lord, this is a clear case of financial abuse. The plaintiff sent remittances over 10 years from the United States to fund a business and build a house. We have Western Union receipts, bank transfers, WhatsApp voice notes, and messages." Chuka's lawyer countered with smug indifference. "My lord, the money sent was a gift. There were no signed contracts. The property and business were registered under my client's name. This is simply family misunderstanding, not fraud." John felt the room tilt. Was everything he had done about to be wiped away with that one word? Gift? The case was adjourned for 2 weeks. Outside the courtroom, the press barely noticed him. The headlines spoke of bigger stories, political dramas, celebrity weddings. No one cared about the deportee chasing shadows. John returned to his Uber job. Each picked-up passenger was to raise funds against the silence of justice. The second court session came. This time, Chuka's lawyer presented a fake agreement that stated the money was a family contribution, signed with a forged signature. John recognized immediately that it wasn't his signature, but handwriting analysis would cost more money than he could dream of. Mama was called in as a witness. She took the stand, wrapped in expensive lace, her hair perfectly tied. "Madame, who built the house?" the judge asked. "My son, Chuka," she replied, without hesitation. John stared at her, unable to speak. The woman who had once hugged him at the airport, who had cried when he sent home his first paycheck, now buried him with a single lie. After court, Damilola turned to him. "John, we might lose this. Unless we can prove malicious intent, this will go down as a civil property dispute. Your family has crafted their version of the truth." "So that's it?" John asked. "After everything? You still have your story. We can take it to the media." John looked around the court premises. No one paid attention. It was just another day in a country where truth was optional. He started a blog. He wrote every night after work. His stories were raw, painful, unfiltered. He titled them Letters from Exile. The first post went unnoticed. The second, a little better. The third one, where he detailed his arrest and detention, caught attention. A few retweets, then more. A radio station invited him anonymously to speak. His voice trembled. "I am not the only one," he said. "This is the story of thousands, of men and women abroad who send money home and come back to betrayal." He became a whisper among the ignored, a symbol, a caution. But that didn't change the court. The judgment day arrived. Chuka and his lawyer looked confident. Mama was absent. John sat at the back, praying. The judge cleared his throat. After careful review of the evidence presented, the court finds that the ownership documents of the property and business legally belonged to Mr. Chuka Okafor. John closed his eyes. However, the judge continued, the court recognizes that the financial contributions made by the plaintiff played a significant role. While not enough to transfer ownership, it warrants moral restitution. The court recommends arbitration. This is not enforceable by law, but encouraged. It was over. Not justice, not vengeance, just a recommendation. Weeks passed. Chuka never agreed to arbitration. John's blog gained more traction. He was invited to speak at a Diaspora conference. He stood in front of a room full of Nigerians with shiny passports and glossy dreams. "We build homes back home while we sleep on factory floors," he said. "We trust blood, only to be bled dry. But no matter what they take, don't let them take your story. That's yours." He returned to his one-room apartment, tired but proud. He still drives Uber, still fought mosquitoes, but his story now lived beyond him. One night, he received a call from a TV producer in London. "We'd like to feature your story. It's time people knew." John smiled faintly. "Let them know." He looked out the window. The city never slowed, but somewhere in the noise, a voice rose. His voice, not rich, not vindicated, not redeemed, but heard. And that, in a land that silences too many, was something.